One of the things that we're going to be talking about today, and we're going to go sit and get comfortable, is we got to talk about what it is to have a dog and to be so in love with a dog that maybe has a disability, whether it's 3 legs, can't hear, or maybe has lost their sight. And so we're going to be talking about that today and seeing whatever Destiny is needing and what we can help to make this relationship as full as it can be with where she's at. So we'll see you in a minute. So my name is Shannon Walker, and we're here with Destiny and Dixie. And Dixie is a 5-year-old American Staffordshire Terrier. And I want to say right off the bat, so Dixie is not sighted. She lost her sight how long ago?
About 2 years ago.
About 2 years ago. So I already have a bunch of things that I want to say. Okay. But why don't you tell me why you're here with Dixie today and what kind of help are you looking for her?
Yeah, so when she lost her vision, I noticed that she was a little bit more timid with other dogs. She's always been friendly with dogs since we got her, or I got her. But then probably about 2 years ago, she started to get more timid. It was more reactive where we weren't really sure why she was getting angry with dogs she had been playing with for a year or so. When I found out she was blind, it made a lot more sense that maybe it's just she wasn't aware that they were in her area, in her space. Maybe it's new for her. So I really want to figure out how I can work on her just being more comfortable and feeling more secure and safe now that she has no vision.
Absolutely. So, one of the things is that even though Dixie was right here next to me, I'm having to keep myself from petting her because I want to pet her, and and we'll just go ahead and pull her back closer to you. But one of the things is that she doesn't necessarily want me to pet her because she smelled me, because now that she can't see, her other senses are heightened. And there's a lot to talk about blind dogs or a deaf dog or a dog that is an amputee. And we're going to talk about specifically what Destiny needs for Dixie today. But if you have a dog that has it, I don't even like to call it a disability like that because they don't see it like that. The dog world doesn't see them like that. But if you have a dog that is limited in their physical ability to thrive, then that is an area that as a pet owner you really do need to investigate, because the information in this lesson is going to be specific to Destiny and Dixie. However, I do want to say one thing that is so important. Being a professional trainer for 27 years, I am continually getting people are always coming in and their dog is insecure, or it's defensive, or it acts timid, or they got it out of a shelter and it's now nervous about men, or it's nervous about certain things, and they're like, well, he had to be abused.
Yeah.
Because he's afraid of men, so men must have abused him, or the people have had the dogs almost all their life and the dog is scared genetically, but they don't see it in genetics because they don't know, because humans know they can reason with humans, and we know how humans think, and I call it being very human-y. We are very human-y, and we thrive because this is our species.
Yes.
The dog species is the dog species. And unless you learn from somebody like me or somebody that you respect, you're always going to be in the dark living with a different species in your home.
Yes.
And there is no victim in the dog world, whether she was 3-legged or she's obviously doesn't have her sight. But if a dog has something that is a physical disability or limitation, humans, if you love dogs, especially as much as I love dogs and you love her, it's hard not to treat him as a victim. It's hard not to look at her and be like, oh.
Yep.
And you want to coddle him and you want to make it better. I know, you should kind of respond to that. but the point is that there is no victim in the dog world. And even if, because her blindness came over time through a medical issue, correct?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
She had already, when I rescued her, she had already lost an eye. And through the facial acts that I see, I think I can assume that it might have been a little bit of a dog fight. I'm not exactly sure. They didn't give a whole lot of detail. I do know that the eye was infected, that they did have to remove it. So based on that, the doctor who saw her about 2 years ago that confirmed blindness in her other eye, she said that whatever leftover infection or inflammation that was there is what caused the blindness to continue into the other eye. Even after having her for 6 months, I had asked multiple vets what was wrong with her eye, and they said, "Oh no, she's fine. She's getting around, no problem." But yeah, so it's definitely caused by an infection from her missing eye.
Okay.
That could have been prevented, but was
right. So it was gradual, and
very gradual.
So you know that it wasn't through a physical trauma,
Yes,
or whatever could have been bad. Whereas a lot of times when we see other dogs with physical limitations to thrive, that it could have come through some sort of trauma. The thing that's awesome about dogs is they live in the moment, and they do not have profound thought, and they don't. I heard somebody else say one time, humans are the only ones that live in the past. Dogs don't. And so it's really important as humans that we see her as she is. She doesn't know she's blind. She doesn't have any thought. No other dog looks at her as a victim. No dog is going to treat her differently. They aren't. They don't see the disability. You can have a 3-legged, one-eyed, hairless dog, and the other dog is going to see the other dog as the same.
I've always wondered if that was something that affects them, the fact that they had sight at one point and then didn't a month later.
Absolutely. So that's a good point. Does it affect them when they had sight and then they didn't? A dog that is born blind, it is all they know. And whether they are born blind or become blind, all their other senses are now heightened. And there's a lot of things that we can talk about having a blind dog, about now that her other senses are more magnified, they can go on sensory overload and be affected by that. There are things that you can do to help her navigate her world by, as an example, putting different smells at like the doors to go out and go potty. You could put lavender next to the doors. You could put vanilla, drops of vanilla at their bed or maybe sleeping areas. You can also do mats on the floor that maybe have different textures to help her identify her environment. When a dog loses their sight and they go into a new environment, they instantly start to map it out in their brain.
Yeah, that's it. I told the vet that I was surprised that she was blind because I had moved a lot in 6 months, and she adapted very quickly. I can tell her, let's go potty. She goes straight to the back door. She has, instead of like a kenneled area, my walk-in closet is her room. So I tell her to go to her room. She goes right there. So it took me a very long time to realize, or actually even believe, that she had lost her sight.
Yeah.
It's just like, what?
Yeah.
How?
No, absolutely. They are amazing at masking it because they are so adaptable. But the things that they cannot adapt to is what I want to talk about.
Yes.
Because that's why you're here. So as an example, before when she was social, now she's not so social. Well, this is one of the reasons, is that she's driven by her nose. And so if even like when she came up to me, she started to smell me. First of all, when a dog comes to smell you, that isn't an invitation to be petted. She's just checking out who you are.
Yeah.
When I actually did go to pet her, she didn't want me to touch her. She was smelling me, and she wasn't seeing it coming, and she doesn't know me. We have no relationship. So I have to respect that. But when she is going nose to nose with a strange dog, so when you have to understand, survival is her greatest instinct.
Yeah.
And she can be smelling towards a dog, and there's a dog there, but all of a sudden when she realizes, because you said she'll sniff toward a dog, and then the minute she realizes it's right there, she becomes defensive, right?
Yeah.
Is because she can't see the social cues. She can't read what's going on with that dog. So a dog, when survival is their greatest instinct, it is their greatest instinct. So it's about being safe, because it's one thing to have relationship with a dog that is in the home, that is familiar, and they've worked things out and there's a familiarity. But when we're talking dogs on the street, as an example, I'm going to tell you right now, never do that.
Yeah.
I would never do that, because she has no way of knowing, because she can't read the social cues, because she can't see them. And it immediately puts her in a defensive posture. Not every dog would necessarily be in a defensive posture, but she is. Okay, very powerful breed. She has a history of playing and being very social, but because her environment and her ability has changed, she can't see that. And so therefore, because when a dog is blind and they are in relationship with another dog, and they go to smell each other, the other dog has to be very forgiving and patient.
Yeah.
Because they may get a nose in their ear. They might get a nose in their side.
Mm-hmm.
When they go to smell and different things, you have to have a dog that would be like my lab, who's just very happy-go-lucky. It doesn't matter where he gets bumped into by another dog or whatever the situation is. He will not be defensive or be put on edge. But not every dog is like that.
Yeah.
So now that she is blind, as you look at what's her life going to look like, there are certain things through this conversation and very likely other conversations that we have that I just wouldn't subject her to.
Yeah.
And one of them is meeting another dog that she may not know, because we don't know how that dog is going to act.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if you have an aggressive dog, like when my dogs come in for training and then I'm having to handle them, I do not interact with them because I don't want any negative, I don't want my scent imprinted wrong.
Got it.
When I imprint my scent with a dog that is insecure, defensive, or aggressive when I'm training here, I will actually use food, put it on my hand, and I don't look at them, talk to them, or touch them. And as a human, I'll go in and I'll, in the beginning, I pack the food or peanut butter, or, well, food usually, but it's usually canned food. I pack it on a spoon. Now it has my scent, and I'm offering food, which is affection. Food is affection, just like touch is affection. So what I'll do is I don't even look at the dog, and he's behind the chain link. And now if he's at the very, very back of the run necessarily, sometimes I'll just leave him there. They're not curious about anything. There's nothing wrong with the dog just sitting and observing for a while. But when I feel it's ready, I will go put the food through the chain link, and I'll squat down, but I don't look at the dog. And if he wants to come up and eat the food, now he's eating it, and he's imprinting my scent. Scent is affection.
Got it.
After day I'll do that day after day. And then once they get better, I'll put it in my hand and put my hand in there. Now I would tell people, do not do this if you're not a professional, because I don't want somebody taking this information and getting their hand bit off by sticking it through the neighbor's fence. Don't do that.
Yes.
Don't do it unless you're a professional. But I'm trying to explain imprinting scent.
Got it.
Okay? Over time, then my scent is affection combined with the food that I'm providing, and then I progress in a very specific way to where now the dog trusts me, he can be in my space, and I can share affection, and the food can sometimes go away.
Yeah.
If your dog has a bad experience with a human, this is any dog, they have a bad experience with a human or another dog, that scent is imprinted that moment. It doesn't mean they sit and ponder, when that dog comes around, I'm going to get him.
Yeah.
They don't think like that, but the scent triggers something in the brain
Got it.
to where that's where they're at. If we need to look at bringing your dog together in your pack, sometimes you just always need to be there as a leader to ensure the deficit that she's in. Number one, because it isn't her fault. However she reacts is not her fault. It doesn't change the reality. We want everybody to be safe. We want our pack to have harmony, but you might just need to be there.
Yeah.
So I would talk about doing things like walks together, different things, strategies where the dog is close in the room, where she is quiet, the other dog is quiet, they're catching each other's scent. Start to do activities where they're around each other, absorbing the scent, and it's in a positive way. And if she does at that point become defensive or aggressive away from that dog, you as a leader can disagree with it.
Yeah.
Just because she reacts doesn't mean you have to go with the reaction. As a leader, you want to disagree with what will be disrespecting your space, whether she's sighted or not.
Yeah.
She's a dog,
Yeah.
and she needs to learn the rules.
Yeah.
But we might just need to bring those rules a different way. The other thing that I would say is I'd walk her on a regular collar, not a harness.
Okay.
And the reason is because that way you can give her a little bit better direction about where you're walking her. Because for me, number one, harnesses are made for pulling. And number two, if she's wearing a flat collar on her leash, flat collar on her neck, then it's going to be easier for you to maybe give a leash correction if you want to disagree with something you don't like. Because you can pop this leash on a harness all day long and she's kind of not going to care.
Yeah.
Right? And it
Like,
doesn't
that's
get good
the only
direction.
thing that she didn't pull on as a puppy. She would always pull with. We did the prong collar. We tried just regular collar, and then once we put a harness on, it's like it's like a safety blanket. She stops. She doesn't even get excited about going in the car. She just sits there.
Because you think that she feels security from it.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't disagree with that, but you know what I would do as a powerful breed? I would walk her on a flat collar.
Okay.
I'd put a backpack on her and put a little bit of weight in it.
Okay.
Now you need to look, because it's going to drain her energy. You want to what she needs is exercise, discipline, and then affection, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're going to take her for a walk, the best way to, I mean, she's a powerful dog. If you put, and you need to Google it, but I believe you can put 10% of her body weight into a backpack that is evenly distributed and walk her. So if you're walking her for an hour or a half hour, now you've got the benefit of an hour.
Yeah.
But she's also going to feel the security at the same time, and you're going to have the ability to lead her and give her some direction or disagree with something that you don't like.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I've always thought that the harness would be better just because I have more control, or she's not pulling. She walks by my side. She doesn't really go off unless she's sniffing and doesn't want to walk right away. So I always thought that, okay, I have the control with the harness, but that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and we'd have to see. My thought is that if the harness brings some security, then let's see if we can achieve the same thing with a backpack that has a little bit of weight in it, which will only give you a plus then.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is that when you have a blind dog that is walking at your side, it is really important that you can really steer where they're going. You know, I've had the opportunity through the years to work a few blind dogs, and when I'm working them, number one, especially here at the kennel, I take the same route every time because they're brain mapping where they're at. When they go out to go potty, the same run, everything. We make sure that they go out same direction. So they can get more and more comfortable as each day goes by. But one of the things that's most important is when I'm going through doorways and I'm going around things, that I can really direct them where I want them to go. Whereas with a harness, sometimes you're pulling the whole body. That's the only thing that I would say to that. So when you are in your own pack, you said you have 3 other dogs.
There's 3 dogs and 1 cat.
And 1 cat. And she has a challenge with one of those dogs.
For sure, Kahlua, which is the female.
Okay.
There's a smaller poodle named Pierre, who she has not actually met. While he's in his kennel, she has gone up and sniffed him, and it was fine. She gave a kiss through the kennel. So I don't think that she would have too much of an issue with him. He does try to dominate whoever he's playing with, and I feel that might make her react because she's not submissive whatsoever. The golden retriever, however, we did put her outside with him about 2 weeks ago, but I put a muzzle on her just to be sure. I wanted to make sure she could be other. She let him sniff her, she sniffed him, and then she laid down and ignored him for the rest of the time they were outside. She didn't even care. He's the most submissive and doesn't care either.
Right.
Which I absolutely love. She just laid next to him and just sat there. With the other 2, they're a little bit more hyperactive and love to play and jump on each other. She's not so into that anymore now that she can't see.
Well, yeah, because she doesn't know what's coming and she doesn't know how she's getting hit. So this
she used to play that way, though.
Right.
And she was a hugger. She would always jump on dogs and hug them. But now...
But now she can't see it coming. She's not reading their social cues. She can feel vulnerable, and knowing that survival is the greatest instinct, she has to protect herself.
Yes.
Right? And so the thing that I would start on day 1, what I would do is anytime you introduce dogs, sighted or not, everything needs to be more calm. Okay? And so I would take that other female and I would take Pierre and individually, and then I would have them on leash in close proximity so they get used to them being there. She's going to be able to smell that dog right there, and she's going to know that he's there. Like I was saying, I would start to do that, and I would start to do walks. But the biggest thing is this, is even though, because it is controlled, she has to, through your leadership, learn to trust the environment because she knows you're not going to let anything bad happen to her, right? Without babying her or coddling her.
Yeah.
And so one of the other things that I would do is disagree. If you have a leash on her flat collar, depending on how guidable she is, if she was to get a hard look or growl it, so let's say you got her on a down command or on leash right here, somebody else has the other dog 5 feet away, laying down or settling on leash, let him get used to the fact that they're right there. All right? And then if they go to sniff, but it's a soft, curious thing, it's fine, let him stay in their place.
Okay.
But then if she gets a hardness or growls or you see a posturing, I'd give her a touch on the side and I would tell her off, no, leave it, whatever consistent word you're going to use, or give her a leash correction.
Okay.
But she has to learn you're not going to allow aggression in your pack. But she has to know you're not going to let that dog jump on her head either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I would start there through getting them used to being in each other's space, on leash away from each other, and then looking at walking, somebody else walking one of the other dogs, a structured, disciplined walk. And I would always walk them and drain their energy before these moments. Okay. Because excitement is going to bring aggression often. Yeah. Okay. And pent up energy. Do you have any other questions about anything about how she's thinking, how she sees the world? Because actually she's not thinking. They just are.
Just are.
They just are. They are. What's awesome about dogs is they live in the moment. And clearly, you know, she came in here and she's just settled, but she's not interacting and looking for any attention from anybody else. So therefore, I'm not going to share affection or interact with her because she didn't invite it. Yeah. You know, I'm just really grateful that Destiny and Dixie came in, and this is going to be a to be continued. We're going to hear the report on how they were doing, and then we're going to get moving forward, getting this girl the rules, boundaries, and discipline that she needs, and getting Destiny as great a job as she's done in a lot of her leadership and how she's done for Dixie. We want to make sure it is that Destiny has all the information to set Dixie up for success so Dixie can thrive like any and every dog. Because when it's all said and done, your dog will never be the dog you want him to be until you are the leader that they need you to be. Yes. So thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Some main takeaways from today's lesson. Number one, it is so important that the human does not see their dog as a victim. Whether they've lost their hearing, lost their sight, lost a leg, been attacked by a dog 5 years ago, or even was in a situation as tragic as it is, that the dog maybe one day in the past was owned by a human that was not fair. As tragic as all of that is, the thing that is awesome about dogs is they live in the moment. And when the dog is out of that moment, they are out of that situation. And so it is so important that we do not see them as a victim and treat them as such, and that we don't allow behavior that is disrespectful or limiting to their life because we think they are forever bound by what happened to them. It is so important that we see them and we move them forward from those experiences, and we don't live there because the dog certainly doesn't live there. That is number one, most important. Number two, even if a dog has a disability or has a limitation in their life, rules, boundaries, and discipline are still the best things you can give them, along with the leadership that you want to provide them. Security is the most important thing to your dog and its survival. And that does not mean coddling and babying. It means leading them through life with security through leadership. It's the best gift you can give your dog. Your dog will never be the dog you want him to be until you're the leader they need you to be. We'll see you next time. Till the next lesson, we just thank you so much for listening. We hope you gained some value. And again, your dog will never be what you want him to be until you're the leader they need you to be. And we just thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.